Welcome to a Fortnight on the Isle, my bi-weekly update series. Today is the very first episode of the series in 2026. We finally made it through 2025 in general, and to be brutally honest, this last fortnight, I don't even know how to describe it. It was pretty brutal. Christmas went well enough, New Year's was pretty meh for me personally, and most everything that I have been thinking about and had on my mind has either been not great or hasn't gone as well as it was supposed to. Like in the case of content creation related stuff, I've been pretty behind on a lot of stuff, been pretty exhausted, and overall just glad to leave 2025 behind me, praying super hard that 2026 goes better. That starts this week. Of course, over the last few days at the time of this video's release, I have posted a video talking about Wheel of Time just as a very first video of the year, because I was not going to try to get a state of affairs or year in review up on the very first day of the year this year like I did last year. That did not work out, and honestly would not have worked out anyway, because as was the last couple days, I did my state of affairs on the 2nd, and I did my year in review, 2025 year in review, just yesterday. In fact, I'm actually recording this video like very shortly after that video got published, because I spent all day editing it and all day yesterday preparing and recording it. That took longer to do than I assumed. So we are well in the swing of things with regard to it now being 2026, and I'm excited to talk about some stuff. I've been a little bit behind on some of that work, like I mentioned, and I've been pretty occupied otherwise, unfortunately, but there are some things about this past fortnight that are actually looking a little bit better relative to, quite frankly, most of 2025, and one of those things is the reading. So let's talk about the reading, my bi-weekly literature update, what I've gotten through the last couple weeks. Well, the first thing is that I read, or rather I finished Firestarter by Stephen King. I believe in the last one of these updates, I was actually like halfway through, or a little over halfway through this book when I recorded it. And I gotta say, the back half wasn't quite as good as the front half, kind of disappointed in some ways, but the ending actually really satisfied me in some other ways. Overall, I think the balance of this book was pretty decent. It was certainly not a bad book. I enjoyed my time thoroughly. I just think the back half was a little bit longer than it needed to be, and moreover, the fact that this book came out right after The Dead Zone is a little bit strange, because this book and The Dead Zone share a lot of foundational similarities that actually makes them like very comparable to each other, and so releasing them back to back and therefore me reading them basically back to back with regard to my Stephen King reading anyway, yielded some like inherent comparisons. Like I was unable to not compare these two books with one another. So it's a little bit of a weird read, but I enjoyed it. I don't think it's bad, like some people kind of led me to believe that it might be, but it's pretty good. In fact, I actually liked the ending. I think I'm the unpopular opinion guy in that I actually like a lot of Stephen King's endings up to this point. Most of them have not bothered me. The other thing that I did get through this fortnight as far as novels are concerned is the Silmarillion. I know last time I said I was going to be reading something else, but by the time I did finish Firestarter, because of some things that were going on in my personal life, that ended up being delayed like by several days. I ended up not finishing that till like 4 or 5 days later than I had thought I would and that I had intended, and that left not enough time to get through the next book that I was going to end up doing. So I randomly decided to pick up the Silmarillion after 2 years away from this, having paused it, and I restarted it and did this an immersive audio read and got through the whole thing somehow before the end of the year and had a great time with it. Now, I do believe, in fact, I don't just believe, I know that I would have gotten even more out of this if I had taken it even slower, and if I had done it basically just eyeball reading. I definitely would have absorbed a lot more of it than I did, basically blasting through it on audio for all intents and purposes. But I also know, having finished this now, that this book, and frankly a lot of other Middle-earth stuff, I think I'm going to be returning to a lot over the course of my life, so I'm actually not too bothered by some of the things that I missed, or some of the details that flew over my head. I think that the Silmarillion is modally written kind of like say a Bible. It is a Bible for the world to some degree, where it's kind of recounting certain bits of history, and there are some stories within that, but overall the Silmarillion isn't a narrative, so going in trying to consume everything and actually get everything would just take a lot longer and a lot more time and a lot more investment to actually get out of it. And although I do want to do that, that's something that I think will be easier to do on a reread and another reread after that, and especially once I've read more stuff within Middle-earth. It is a fantastic book and is wonderfully deep. It is incredible in a lot of ways. There's a lot that I got out of it. I just know that I could have gotten a lot more of it, and I'm okay with that. So, overall, it's just kind of one of those things. I probably shouldn't have read it as fast as I did, but I'm actually kind of okay with how quick I went through it, because I'm going to be going back to it again at some point, so it's not that big of a concern. The other thing that I kind of mentioned earlier was that I had planned to read The Three Musketeers last fortnight. I wanted this to be like the main thing that I did as soon as I finished Firestarter, but like I said, Firestarter took a little bit longer to finish than I thought, and this I wasn't going to be able to finish before the end of the year, and I wanted to be able to get through some things and be relatively cleanly cut off by the end of 2025 when it came to my reading, so I postponed this to January, and I have since started it. I am around 15% of the way through, and the crew is together, basically, the titular Three Musketeers, as well as our main character, who isn't one of the Three Musketeers, actually. So these four folk are together, and seeing them come together in early stages of their friendship so far has been really entertaining, has been very fun, and that is my primary planned read for the rest of the fortnight. But that's not all that I have to talk about on the reading front. I did actually get around to some manga, like I talked about in December. I did read the first couple deluxe volumes of The Girl from the Other Side, so the first 6 out of 11 official volumes I got through, and this has been really, really good. I have my gripes about, I have a couple of minor gripes about the art up to this point, although most of those, at least the primary gripe, seems to have been resolved by the time the third and fourth volumes came out. The third and fourth actual volumes, so the end of this deluxe and the beginning of this deluxe, I got through, and my major issue, that being with value contrast, the grays versus blacks and whites in there, was pretty muddy in the first couple volumes, but after that it really improved. And as far as the story and stuff goes, I'm deeply invested, and I'm also emotionally invested, which is something that's been a surprise. So there's been some things that have happened in there that aren't as cozy as I was hoping that the whole manga would generally be. It's definitely gotten a bit existential in some places, pretty surprisingly, but I'm really enjoying it a lot. And so I'm going to be continuing over this coming fortnight. Probably just going to get through the third deluxe omnibus this fortnight, and then probably the back half of January is when I'll get through the fourth. I don't have anything else to really talk about on the bi-weekly reading, so we shall move on to the bi-weekly gaming, in which I will say that there's no games that I played the last couple weeks, because I haven't even spent very much time in my office the last couple weeks, to be honest. Up until the last, handful of days, preparing some of this end-of-year content and finally getting into this groove over here for that reason. Outside of those last few days, I have not even been in my office since I got home from my New Jersey trip. So I just haven't been in here. But I do have a couple plans for things that I do want to play here in the near future. One of these is more or less on the docket. That is playing Alan Wake Remastered. That's because I committed to doing a Let's Play for that over on the second channel, hopefully to start publishing in February. So if I want to start publishing that in February, I need to record that Let's Play in January, and I think I'm going to try to go ahead and do that this fortnight if possible. It probably won't be, but I'm definitely going to give that an honest try, just so that I can have that done a little bit earlier, and thus start preparing some Let's Play stuff for after Alan Wake, sooner, just kind of get back on the being ahead of schedule type of thing, because I haven't been ahead of schedule for content related stuff in a very long time, and I would like to be. The other thing is, this is a little bit more of a personal thing. I want a little bit of gaming comfort food, so to speak. The last couple of years I've been able to spend a ton of November and December just honestly kind of vegetating and doing a lot of gaming and nothing else, you know, ahead of having to do all the year-end content and that big spike of stuff and responsibilities that I have to do in January. And because I'm going to be starting a new job relatively soon, like I just, before that starts, I do want to vegetate out a little bit this fortnight. I don't think I'll have time to, but I would like to play a lot of like Remnant 2, for example, and just kind of do nothing some of these days. If I ever have a couple days where I don't have any other responsibilities, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do nothing for a little bit of that time, because I definitely feel like I need it. I did not have the opportunity to really just relax and do nothing these last couple months, and I think that might be a bad thing. But in either case, let's move on to the bi-weekly cinema, where I do have some things to talk about. Of course, over the last couple weeks, I did continue watching some more Christmas movies. A notable one that I did watch over this past fortnight was the live-action Jim Carrey, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That was a lot of fun watching that for the first time. If you want more of my thoughts on that movie, as well as all of the other Christmas movies that I watched over the last couple of weeks, I did do a video on the second channel on the last day of 2025 that was, you know, pretty briefly ranking and reviewing all 10 of them. So, you know, you can check that out if you want more about my Christmas movie watching stuff. But otherwise, I did finally circle back around to, like I wanted to last week, and watched Sinners, which I had been wanting to watch basically since it came out in theaters, but I never had time. And then I picked it up on Blu-ray a few months later, and then I hadn't gotten around to it for a while yet then, and so I finally circled back around to it before 2025 ended. Very glad that I did so. Optimally, I should have a review for that coming soon, but for the sake of just expressing my thoughts here, I thought it was really great. I definitely enjoyed myself a ton, and can't wait to cover that a little bit more. The only thing on the docket for things that I would like to watch over the coming fortnight is that a lot of my friends have been going and seeing Marty Supreme in theaters, the new film starring Timothée Chalamet, and I have no idea what the movie's about at all, and it wasn't even on my radar at all until friends started watching it. But basically everybody I know has rated this basically 5 out of 5 or otherwise still really enjoyed it. So it's another Sinners situation where it's just like everybody I know is really harping on about how great this is. So I should probably go see it. So I would like to see that. At the time that this video releases, it might even be the case that after church today, I go over to the next town over where it's actually finally showing in theaters, because it wasn't for a few weeks, and see it then. If not, I'll probably find some time this week, if possible, to go and see it, just because I'm really curious. But either way, that is the only thing that I know of over the next couple weeks that I more or less plan to watch. But speaking of plans, let's talk about the upcoming releases, my video releases that I'm going to have coming out on the couple of channels. I have 4 videos each of these next couple of weeks, 2 per second channel and 2 on the main channel in each week. Tomorrow and for reference, these are all going to be coming out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, alternating second channel, main, second, and main. So hopefully this is pretty easy to follow. Tomorrow, on the 5th, I will be doing Movie Magic episode 12, optimally, and that ought to be the review of Sinners, if I have the time to actually record and edit that video today at the time that this video comes out, so that can come out tomorrow. I would like to release that. There is the chance that I don't have the time for that, but I think it should be pretty doable. On Tuesday the 6th will be my regular December reading wrap-up and book of the month video, plus the January TBR video on the main channel. Wednesday, these are a little bit more variable. The Wednesday episodes may or may not actually happen this way because they take a little bit more editing time than, say, the Movie Magic videos do, but I would like to do a brief review of Final Fantasy 1, since I meant to do that a couple months ago, you know, when the Let's Play for that finished in the middle of October. But again, I just fell behind on a lot of review stuff. I talked about that in these last couple videos, but I hope to do that brief review on Wednesday. It is written now, so it's just a matter of actually getting it recorded and edited, so maybe that comes out Wednesday. On Thursday the 8th will be my top 5 best books of 2025, where I talk about my favorite reads of the year. 2025 did not go great as far as my reading was concerned. I read barely like half this year compared to each of the 3 previous years, for example, and that's a large part of why that list is only going to be a top 5 instead of a top 10, is because there just wasn't that much that I read that felt truly top 5 worthy, even top 5, let alone top 10. So that's going to be coming out Thursday nonetheless. Next week, next Monday on the 12th, should be Movie Magic episode 13. That'll be a review of Back to the Future, which I saw for 40th anniversary screening back in November. There's the chance that the Back to the Future and Sinners reviews end up alternating, because the Back to the Future review is shorter and thus would take less time both to record and edit and have out on time for tomorrow. So these two could go back and forth, but I do hope and plan to get each of these reviews out over the next couple Mondays. I had a lovely time watching Back to the Future, by the way. Loved that movie, and I'm excited to get that review out as well. On Tuesday the 13th ought to be my book review for Firestarter by Stephen King. I have a couple reviews that I'm going to try to fill out a couple spaces in January with, and that's probably going to be the first one that I actually decide to cover this year. Then on Wednesday the 14th, if I am able to, again, these ones are a little bit more questionable because they take a little bit more editing time, I want to do my brief review video of Little Nightmares 3. Again, that's another video that I would have liked to have out a couple of months ago, given that I played that game in October. But nonetheless, I was able to get back around to writing a review for that recently and hope to get a video out for it here soon. Then Thursday on the 15th will be the first part of my 2025 reading tier list, where each year I go through and do a few videos, depending on how many books I read and how many books I can cover per video, all of the things that I read over the course of a year and putting them in a tier list and kind of implicitly ranking them as a result within that context. And so I'm going to do the first part of that next Thursday. And because I read so much less, that series is going to be a little bit shorter this year than it was the last couple years, for example. But that is everything that I have really seriously planned for the next couple weeks on the channel. Still planning the rest of January and what days, what things are actually going to come out. The back half of January is going to have a lot of my album of the year, film of the year, and game of the year related videos, as well as a couple other exciting year-end wrap-up stuff on the book side of things that I'm hoping to get done, but I still have to get some of that planned, and here at the beginning of the month I just don't have the time to do that because I need to get all these videos done first, man. I have not recorded, let alone been able to make a thumbnail or anything for any of these videos that I've talked about in this section, so that should put into perspective, I'm behind. I normally have basically all of January's stuff done as far as I'm able to within the last week of December, first few days of January, and here I am a few days into January and I've not done any of it, so that's not great. But in either case, that is what I have planned. And as far as real life miscellaneous stuff goes, I hope that everybody did have a fantastic holiday season once again, and a happy new year to everybody. It was certainly a fortnight for me, I can tell you that much. I certainly can't say that it was my personal favorite holiday season, but that is okay, and I hope that all of you guys had a good one nonetheless. The best we can do is our best, and this year I'm certainly working on doing that because 2025 was a doozy. So in fact, at the time of this video's release on January 4th, I believe, starting tomorrow, I will actually be going back to certain diet and fitness improvements that I've been meaning to make again for a while. It's long overdue considering that I was doing pretty well on these fronts back in 2021, but then I kind of started slacking and fell. That a lot of it started to fall by the wayside, unfortunately. So I'm going to start updating a little bit on how some of that goes when applicable in these videos, I think. But otherwise, like I've made explicit at this point in the video, I have several more videos that I need to go ahead and make, including a couple more videos that I need to get recorded and edited today as soon as this video is also edited and uploaded. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Thank you for watching this video. If you did, I greatly appreciate it. Sorry for rambling probably a little bit more than I needed to for this video, but it was a good Fortnite. It was nice to actually get some stuff read again. I feel actually pretty excited about certain things in ways that I generally haven't for a little bit. So I'm looking forward to continuing that train and letting 2026 be a much better year than last year was, and I hope you guys are along for that same ride. For now, I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.